Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sword AF Season 1 Retrospective Roundtable. Damn, it feels good to say that. Y'all, we did it.
We did it.
We did it! Season 1. Yeah, I could not believe the amount of support we got that quickly. Did that take y'all by surprise, or was it expected? Did you know we would have our audience behind us?
Sorry to answer first.
Actually, you know what? Just to be polite, let's roll for initiative.
Okay.
Just to see who gets to answer this first.
Then I'm
right?
gonna roll. I'm gonna answer last for sure.
Not this time. Not this time. You get the heart of the cards.
10.
11, 10.
12.
11.
So it's Amanda. Amanda goes first. We have to answer at the same time.
Oh.
We have to answer at the same time.
Great.
Was I surprised? Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely was. I was surprised to see all the fan art and everyone so excited and so invested. It was really, really cool to create a character and have people be like, oh my God, and then make storylines of them and pictures, and even Morrisell, someone killed a Morrisell fan art. I was
It's in here. We'll be sharing that later for sure.
So yeah, I was.
I was also a little worried because, I've been honest about the fact that I am not experienced with D&D. And this in many ways was my only opportunity to play it. And I was so excited to do it. And it really is a passion project. There wasn't really a necessity for us to do it here at Smosh for any reason other than we just wanted to, and it would be fun. There's so many other types of videos we could have done that we probably could have been like, that's easier and we'd get the same views or whatever, but we did this because we really enjoy it and wanted to give it a shot.
I really love that people immediately attached to a character, and everyone had different characters they attached to, and I was like, oh, that's so cool that everyone's identifying with such different personalities at the table.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm so bug-coded, I'm trying to impress these older people.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it was just so awesome. I think all of Betrayal Legacy was just leading up to us doing this. It felt like, I don't know, Betrayal Legacy was its own thing, but it did feel like, I don't know, it felt like the audience, it just felt like, I don't know, you said we started the video off being like, we did it, but also they did it. You guys did it by watching, and it felt like a journey we took together, as cheesy as it sounds. But it
That's
did
so
feel
bug-coded.
Shut up. It did feel though more apart. It felt like a journey we took with the audience. I do feel, because Legacy, it felt each episode was its one thing, but this felt like something we did with the audience watching. It felt like
Totally.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think it's funny that you bring up Board AF Legacy, because, something that I've always wanted to see more of here is we're in this unique position where we have improvisers and sketch comedy actors, and then people who at the very least have the willingness and excitement to play games or learn a new game. And I really wanted those to merge a little bit more. So BAF Legacy was that. It was introducing us and the audience to what if it was fully character-based and in a game world? And so once our audience got used to that and we got used to that, it was time for D&D, where we have a little bit more freedom and control. And so I remember the first day the video went up of, Sword AF1, at best I was I think our BAF Legacy audience is gonna be here for this. We're gonna get 200K views, and great, we'll go from there. And I just remember as the day went on, it was hey, the video's doing really well. It's at 400K. And then a couple of people in the D&D community reached out and was hey, this is really great. Congrats. And then it kept going. And then after a week and a half, we're at 1 million views. And I was just I guess imposter syndrome has to die at some point. I think we're doing something cool. So thank you for that, y'all. It was just awesome. So speaking of which, you mentioned, Shane, not knowing D&D as well. And I think to some degree, all of us are there. I think, Chance, you and I and Angela as well, we probably have the most experience, but even within that is it's varying. So as improvisers and sketch comedians, did you enjoy the combat at first? Did you learn to love it? Did you find that it was more of an obstacle to the story you wanted to tell? How'd you feel about the game aspect beyond just character?
I mean, for me, that wasn't as an improviser, that was kind of tapping more into gamer mode. And that I really loved. I think actually the combat of D&D is the most easily accessible part for me because it translates in my mind so easily to, you know, I've played Skyrim, I've played all the Final Fantasies, I've played like all these games that I kind of know like turn-based combat and, you know, weaknesses and strengths, and but D&D is a lot more free. I mean, there is that creative element that I still think I'm learning of, like looking at my moves and knowing like the type of damage they do, but also being like, okay, Thorn Whip could also, or Vine Whip could also be like, I mean, I could use that as a lasso. I could use that as a way of getting across somewhere. And that's where I still am like learning to think creatively, but also strategically. But it's really just kind of sky's the limit.
My favorite for watching you was like, which I don't imagine you get to explore in video games, was watching your comedic voice come out in combat with things like Ruben, where it was like you would fight in such a fucking hilarious way, where you'd be like, and then there's this guy Ruben who comes out and is like, hey guys, and it was just so fucking funny for you to fight both ways, where like Fernie is such a force, was such a force, and then you'd have like so many creative ways that you'd fight that were just bizarre. It was just great.
You also picked a really cool device of Fernie where like you get to mechanize these animals, and so it's such a clear visual.
Yeah,
of
it's
you
very
fighting.
creative.
I would argue, though, as DM, that like all of you had your own versions of that, whether you started out that way or found it later, you know, because I think that's the really impressive thing about you, is that the combat still lends itself to the story. You know, Kota is very big on like posturing and showing off and making a grand gesture of it. So like, even though you're a blade singer and that's expected, you were like, all right, here's the style of music I want playing now, which like not everybody would have done. And you know, you, Dolores, still added in all these cutesy mom things and like wanted to take care of everybody. And you know, even in the performance at the end, you're like, oh, well, I want to show off, like I've still got it. Like, I want to do this hair flip into the water. And you, Bug, were like, you know, finding your path and like trying to. One of the cool things about D&D that people don't always get is that like failure is not bad. It's just a part of the story.
Yeah.
So like you roll a 1 on something and it's like you miss with your axe and you're just filled with this rage because you know you can do better, and you like owned that immediately.
That's my favorite part. That I think that I get to own more in D&D. That in video games I think is just like hilarious, where it's like, oh, you're really bad.
Sure.
It's just like fun and like don't win, where it's like, oh, well now I'm winning. But like in this, you can make it an emotional thing. You can make it like a relational thing. You could be like, oh, I'm gonna have to figure this out at some point. I'm really bad at my crossbow or whatever. Like you can make it like a whole storyline.
I'm curious because, you know, obviously I was learning as I was going as a DM. I had some help from some friends and watched a little bit of content. And I've played D&D for like a while, but never as a DM. I sat down, I got like dinner with my friend Vince, who's a great DM, and he sort of told me how he makes his outlines, and that was really helpful.
What'd you order at dinner?
I only ordered avocado toast.
Burgers and fries?
If you can believe it. So he got a burger, I got avocado toast. It was a lean night.
Thanks guys for watching.
Thanks for watching. Hey, if you want avocado toast, go f*** yourself. Sorry. It's good. It's supposed
Okay,
to
roll for toast.
Roll for toast. You get ham. Okay, sorry, this is the weirdest thing.
So like how much avocado you get? Okay, I'm done.
Very little. It's California. It's hard to find. So I had a lot to learn, but a lot of you guys, at least at the very start, sort of had to learn by doing. Is there anything you learned throughout the process that you like wish you would have known from the start, or like something big that you've learned that you were glad that like may have affected how you would have made your character in another way?
Yeah, mine for sure was the improv. I felt like saying that it was improv for me, never playing, kind of pigeonholed me in what I know improv to be.
Oh, sure.
Right, like rather than like gameplay. So I was always, we talked about this, I was always in character all the time, which was fun, actually very fun for me. And actually sometimes more freeing than switching back and forth. But I think my biggest thing that I learned was like, oh, I am my own, I only have control over what I'm doing in this moment.
Sure.
And in improv, that's, in a way, I guess that's not the opposite. But in improv, you set people up.
Yeah,
You set up backstories. You give them a past. You give them a personality. You kind of give people gifts. Whereas here, I think I was thinking it was gifts, but it was more like going too far. But it was still fun for me to learn, and now I'm like, oh, okay.
I never would have thought of that originally because, like, I come from an improv background as well, where, like, it's great to give someone a gift, and it's literally called a gift because it's like, oh my God, what a good thing to point out about me. Like, hey, John, you're sweaty right now. Is everything okay? And you're like, now I can talk about that. That's awesome. And it's an extra challenge for you because for me as a DM, that is what I'm supposed to do. And I can't imagine being on the receiving end of it and being like, yup, I am, and that's it. I can't give it back. So, like,
yeah, it's
that's
probably
wild.
just like my little kid energy that's like, and then I hit the tree, and then the tree seeps out magic dust.
It was so funny to see those moments where you're in it and you're having so much fun. And it's like,
that's really what it is. It's like, and then it's like, oh yeah.
I
It's
think
the best.
I think I could have found like a middle ground to like let you do that sometimes, but it was so hard because like when you do that, you're so good, and it's literally have to be like, hey, I'm so sorry, the tree doesn't have magic.
No, they
dust."
do that
Like,
sometimes. They're like, okay, tell me what happens.
Yeah.
Throws
It's
it
also
over, tell me what happens.
It's also like when the dice come in, where you're like,
Yeah.
I need to
which
just
is
ask
so
more
fun,
questions
where
and
it's
roll
just
dice.
like, where you're like, okay, so I want this to happen, and then you're like, okay, does it? And that's like what's so cool about D&D. That's like kind of like normal life, where it's like, does it? And then you have to roll.
I think I didn't realize that I could ask so many questions.
So many questions.
About be like, oh my God, does this tree what's going on? What's inside this tree?
Exploration is like one of the main things.
I don't
of
think
D&D.
it's something I learned more recently, and I realized I don't know if any of us ever rolled for insight.
dude,
I was like, wait.
I watched back some of these episodes and I'm like, because I've seen them all half a dozen times for like notes and like gathering all the lore and all that stuff after the fact. And I would like, I'll have all these moments where I'm like, roll for dexterity. I'm like, you dumbass, that's sleight of hand. Like, why wouldn't you have them roll
Yeah.
history, arcana? And it's even harder because like I've been playing the hell out of Baldur's Gate 3, which is based in D&D, and you know, it's that level of exploration and questions that well, we had a great time.
I know. I was like, I loved it.
It's that level of exploration that you're talking about that like is innate if you've already played the games, but you don't know otherwise. Because we had this moment in game the other day where like they were like, you can tell this man is a musician, but you don't know what instrument he played. And I literally was sitting there on stream and I was like, I guess the only way I could tell that would be like, if he has calloused fingers, it would be a lute. Strong palms would be a drum. Lip muscles would be a flute. And then I rolled for insight in game, and it was like, you see calluses on the man's fingers, suggesting he played a lute.
I love
and
that.
I'm like, okay, but I've played these games enough that I'm like, it's innate for me. I need to craft things where it's like, not everybody knows that yet. And I should have made that very clear that it could be a thing. So
No, it was a fun exploration. My inner child just showed me that it's like, it like wants to come out and be like, magic! And I'm like,
your inner child.
okay, honey.
But I think insight would have saved us a lot of times, because there are a lot of times where I feel like we just genuinely didn't know what to do. And if we rolled for insight, you could have just been like, so here's what you do. And it's like, oh, okay, like, you know.
Yeah.
There's so many things that are set up in D&D that I've learned that it's like, even if you're not equipped for a situation, there is something to do that will equip you for it.
Sure.
And that's something I've learned since.
It's like there's a video of me as like a 7-year-old that my mom took, and I am playing D&D by myself basically, and I'm being the DM, where I'm like, so there's a princess over here, and then over here there's this, and then there's a big monster, and I think that's what you were doing, where you thought you had to carry all the weight. And then I think, and that's such an easy first campaign where
very Dolores coded.
yeah,
I know.
exactly, and
It's
then
true.
you just have to like, you get to just
You can't carry it all,
you
honey.
can't carry it all. You don't have to
No
carry
matter how
that big
that bag is.
Can I see that video?
That was good.
Yeah, it's really funny.
I want to see it.
And then my mom zooms in, this is a tangent, on my brother holding a stick, and she's like, oh my God, he's holding a stick.
Meanwhile, you're crafting a whole story
whole
over
Mom.
And then you just hear me going, you're not listening to me, you're not listening to me. And she's just zooming in on him, and he's like,
Like, Mom, I don't want to interrupt. You're going to miss some really important lore.
that's
Like,
probably why I'm here today.
One of my things was like learning how to not be chaotic, because in other campaigns I'm very like, go over there, like go with that person. Oh, you're a side character, you're my main hoe now.
What?
So, no, 100%. And also sleeping with people we didn't do, which
We didn't
is
do
probably a
that.
good thing. We sleep with people so
You
much.
don't know what
In your
Dolores
campaigns, you
did.
sleep with people?
Y'all
You can
missed
get
out
along.
on
We
Rum
missed
Pum.
out. I know. Give her.
I have 7 pages of lore about
no,
what
not
that would
Rum
be
Pum.
like.
I want Tungo.
Yeah,
baby.
who I had to
want
make up in the
Tungo.
moment because you just
that's
didn't like Rum Pum.
I told you. So it's like relearning the things because I'm like,
Yeah.
as soon as I heard Tungo, I was like, yeah, you're my guy. You're my guy. Because I love the side characters that aren't fully formed, and it's like, well, we're gonna find out who they are together. And
I love that.
Relearning.
So you have a bunch
so
of hoes. Did you say hoes?
We don't need to talk about that.
Okay.
But Kota also being like a broody boy, so it's like learning how to be broody and still like go with the fun kind of.
Yeah, that is a tough balance.
It's a tough balance.
I appreciate you so much for being aware of that because, you know, the way we have our sort of group laid out here, you have a lot of video game knowledge and you have a lot of D&D knowledge. But you played the character that is woefully naive about the world, and you played the broody character. So we put the lion's share of the work on the 2 people with the most like excitable characters who maybe don't have as much like innate D&D literacy right off the bat. And so like you guys had such a challenge in front of you, and you rose to meet it every time.
Well, we didn't really rise that high. We
Hey, so little.
What? Burned on myself?
What? No.
Hoes?
We did a lot of rallying, though. I think, like,
Yeah.
you know, as in like not like fighting, but like spirits, as in
Yeah.
like we'd be like, guys, what do you know, like.
And a lot of explaining, like, wait, what's going on here? It's like, no, but I mean, like, we need to know. I'm like, well, actually, yeah, I don't know what's going on either. Can you tell me?
Well, that's the good thing about that, though. Like, because our audience, some people know D&D, some people have been like, oh, I've always been excited to learn about D&D, but I don't know anything. Other people are like, I just saw the movie, and then other people, you know nothing. And so I wanted this to be enjoyable for people and accessible to people who didn't know anything, but also respectful of the people who, like, this is their thing. And so having this specific spread of people and experience levels and character types, like, I thought y'all did a lovely job and really nailed it.
It was really fun. It was really fun.
It was really, really fun.
How'd you feel about Fernie being a silly guy when you... Did you feel restricted at all by being a silly guy when you wanted to...
Silly guy.
Yeah, a little bit. I realized at a certain point, in certain scenarios, where I was like, oh, I kind of know the answer, but I don't know how to, if I were to like role play this, how to make this make sense of him, since I played him kind of dumb, and I started off playing him very dumb, and then it kind of turned from being dumb to just more naive, which is more kind of what I think I want. He's not an idiot. He's just
Discovering it in the moment.
he just literally has not been in the world.
Yeah.
And so, but something that I think I'm gonna lean into more in the second season is that his wisdom is really high, and you know he's more street smarts. I think he's more like he understands the innate nature of things. His nature is really high, but he's just really dumb. I think societally.
Yeah.
I relate to Fernie.
That's so funny because it's such a rocketing Groot where Groot is like this naive, but he's like wise and like sees the things that Groot
For sure.
And Groot's like,
And we had moments like when Fernie describes everything about ants. Like we're like, yeah, he isn't stupid.
Yeah.
He's just not equipped with specific knowledge.
Specialized.
What does Fernie say about money? He's like, I understand what money is, but what does money do?
What does money do?
Honestly, he's pretty philosophical.
Yeah, I think that was wise.
He
It
cuts
was a
through
wise
all
thing.
the bullshit and he just says it, and people are like, "Oh, I've never asked myself that before."
Yeah, because what does money mean to a wooden robot? You know, like why would they care about it?
Nothing.
So,
Buy better wood, I don't know.
yeah, I guess.
And you're like, yeah, toilet's a hole.
This is redwood.
Were there any, now that we're at the end of season 1, I'm assuming that most of you have seen probably what's happened up to this point. Were there any story moments that took you by surprise that you just really did not expect or see coming?
Honestly, unless anyone has one they want to throw out.
No.
We killed that werewolf guy, and I was like,
I was like, we're done.
we messed up.
We're done.
And I was actively trying in that fight to not do it. And then later on, we're like, what was the deal with that? And you're like, that was a town pervert.
That was my favorite reveal of the whole season.
Was he always a pervert?
So here's the greatest
That was
joke.
funny.
retcon?
Was he born a pervert?
Nature and nurture.
no.
What I probably my favorite point is when we started doing these live premieres of the season. So when that episode happened, there's so many twists and turns when that's happening and all the different reveals. And like, you didn't kill the prince, you did kill the prince, you didn't. Oh, you did. Watching the chat go like, oh, I know what's coming. Just the
so
jerk back
funny.
and forth. So regarding him being the town pervert, speaking of guest, also again been playing Baldur's Gate. I got to a point the other day. This is not a spoiler for anybody doing anything, where you go into an abandoned, enchanted castle, and at the top there is a castellan waiting for you made out of clockwork. I was like, you all have to know that I wrote the episode before this happened. Like, mother.
Set the record straight.
I was like,
it.
good God.
Set the record straight.
And there's a magical ring you can steal. I don't know. So anyway,
Show the receipts.
it's time, the ravages of time. So was he always a pervert? I wasn't quite sure exactly what I wanted him to be yet. All I wanted to do was set you guys up in a situation where you're like, I'm putting this together. I figured this out. This is clearly Beauty and the Beast. And I want the audience, too, to be like, oh, I know what this is. This is Beauty and the Beast. And by having you think and having them think that they have figured out everything about this location and seeing where it's going to go, that left a lot of opportunity to take it in a direction that would be unexpected at any point.
So he was never the prince.
He wasn't ever the prince unless you truly, truly decided to save him and talk to him and undo his spell and whatever. I would have been
Pervert.
like, all right, I guess he's the prince, like if need be. But
That's
like,
one of the fun things about D&D is you can like cock things. You can cock things for later.
What's going on here?
that's not the word I used, but for sure.
What is happening here?
No, but you can save them for later. So like say Tungo didn't come up.
Right.
Tungo might be in the castle later, so we
True.
discover he's one of the
True, true,
books.
true.
Sure.
Tungo still exists in a
I
different
mean,
form.
when the prince was the plate, that was so,
That was
Exactly.
so
the prince can be the wolf,
funny.
the prince can be the plate.
it was so funny.
I'm really glad that y'all ended up doing that. And thank you. Like, that's the thing, because I'm trying to find the balance now between having things or potential storylines prepared versus like having the freedom and the looseness to, you know, because there's a world in D&D, and you don't always want to do this, but like where you guys see the castle and you're like, honestly, guys, I'm not feeling castle today.
Yeah.
Let's go explore in the woods, and I have to be like, yep, these woods are like, you know,
Yeah,
so
sure.
yeah.
You taking the dagger,
The boar.
I did not think you'd do that.
You didn't think I would?
No.
Oh,
What?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm gonna take that dagger.
Absolutely,
There's no guards. There's no magic guarding it. I'm gonna take that.
But then
dagger
I didn't think you'd put it back.
when I had to.
Yeah.
But then it turns out you actually kind of didn't.
Yeah, you didn't.
I didn't put
There
it
was,
back?
Like, no,
No, you didn't need
You didn't
to.
have to put it back.
Oh yeah.
I think my
But
favorite.
now we got the whole castle, so I'm gonna just take it again.
That's actually I
Now
am
it's yours.
so excited for season 2. God, I have a lot of things that I have ideas for your characters that I will, of course, run by you in terms of general concepts. We are also working with a couple of very experienced writers. They came in and we consulted with them, you know, to see if we would want to work with them. And then for the last episode or two, I was like, hey, I have a little less time to pay this thing off than I thought. I'm thinking about going about it this way, or I could go about it this way. What do you think? And they were like, what if it kind of both happens? And I was like, oh, that's great. And then like, you know, I talk about this being my baby, but I do want to remind everyone, like, this is a group effort with y'all. We work on our characters together. There was a moment where like Alex and I, our AP were talking, and I was like, hey, I had this whole third mission planned, and we're not gonna have time to get to it. And he was like, well, what if this part of the second mission is the third mission? And I was like, no, oh my God! And then we have Mimic Castle. And so, like, that would not have happened
Mimics.
without, like, he was just like, combine them. I'm like, yep, there we go. So that, I mean, it's about being open to these ideas.
It's a really collaborative game. I think once you realize that, like, you can work together without, like, going too far in the story on your own, that it's actually really, really collaborative. And I think it's really, really fun
I agree with
to
you.
do. I just want to roll more.
I will, you know, this is my promise to you. My promise to you. And actually, I want to say thank you to Chance, too, because, like, as the person here who's played, you know, I don't know who's played more, but, like, you played a lot of D&D. So I would check in with you and be like, as someone who's played a lot of D&D, what would you like more of? What are you thinking? And that was the one thing is you were like, roll more, you know.
I was like, let's roll.
Roll more.
Let's
So,
roll.
do you think your physical location at the table affected how you worked with other characters?
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
100%.
wild.
Wait, what?
Because there's so many Bug and Fernie moments in fan art, and so many Kota and Dolores moments in fan art, and you guys have this distance between you, quite
And
literally
it's like a
as
weird
characters.
distance, and it's not like straight on.
And
like
you know
this
what?
weird diagonal.
I'd go as far to say I think the same happened for
Bath
Legacy.
100%.
For sure.
that you guys always had moments.
We
Yeah.
always had
and
moments.
we
always-
always had moments.
Yeah, that's true.
But then that's
But then you and
opposite
I
for
always
this.
had moments.
No, because we were next to each
we
other.
were there. I was over there.
That's why we moved.
Oh my God,
That's why I'm
right.
sitting
And now
over
I
here this
feel
time.
very far and disconnected from Shane. Like I feel so apart.
These ones are the worst. These ones are the worst.
And we're seated the same distance apart as Smosh Mouth, and it's just like, yeah, and I hate
and I
you
just
right
don't
now.
get you.
I don't get this.
Smosh Mouth, when is that uploaded and on what channel?
Mondays on the Smoshcast channel. Hey,
Amazing.
we've talked about D&D there, so you can check it out.
Yeah.
I think that's true. This table does get pretty distant for us at this range. I would also say maybe it's just that's something that we will learn and adapt to as we play more, because I think we will learn how to, I don't know, when we have a better idea of how to handle challenges and puzzles and combat, I think we're gonna feel more confident, and then we're gonna be. I don't know. It often felt like we were all kind of scrambling, and so we would reach for whatever was easiest or closest, and that's the person next to you.
right.
Well, it's also because
I'd
me and
also-
Amanda don't make eye contact a lot.
No, I'd also
just
disagree.
like,
I think
So true.
just for argument's sake, I think that like I have a thing with Kota only just because of like my specific thing. I think Fernie and Dolores don't talk that. Like I don't think you guys have a connection yet.
No.
Like, and I think there's more to explore there.
No.
Like just in specifics of those two characters.
I think
I
that's
agree.
also. I think that's also true. Is that the character styles?
Yeah.
Is tough. Bug and Fernie are both like enthusiastic,
Exactly.
but kind of like they're both naive in their own ways. Whereas Dolores and Kota are very like we know what's going on.
I think we know. I think we feel all knowing, but I feel like we're pretty f***ed up.
Yeah, pretty f***ed up.
I feel like we're pretty f***ed up, and we're like, we know all. That's just our
100%.
control.
100%.
It's funny because it's like the teenage angst of I know everything, and then the like motherly wisdom of I think I know everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Such
Coming
different
together,
places, but
that's
such.
what we related on.
100%.
That's wild.
But yeah, I guess Fernie and we should just go.
I just think they haven't had their moment yet.
I don't
that's
know.
all.
I don't know if Fernie and Kota ever had an interaction.
Exactly. That's what I think.
Fernie and Kota, no, there was I Spy, but that was pretty much it.
You know what would be crazy is if,
So
like,
true.
I don't know, somehow that got paid off and explored in season 2 in a really satisfying way for both the players and the audience. I'd tune into that.
Oh God, watching that was watching that from this
That'd be really
angle.
cool.
I was really deep
the
in
job?
Too bad
that.
I'm not gonna do
Yeah,
it.
well,
Too bad it's not gonna happen.
Too bad I'm gonna make sure it doesn't happen.
Put a Venmo me $1.
Whoa, that plug felt like an hour long.
I have all the control. I'll make it worse. Season 1, episode 1, season 2, Bug's funeral. Bug. So one
Keep
last.
teasing that shit.
I know. Well, so one last. Well, God, that was one interesting thing about like seeing y'all learn your classes too, because like a cleric generally heals. And so like as time went on, it became clear when y'all like really locked into like, oh, this is the thing I do. So maybe even more of that in season 2, because we're gonna spend all this time practicing. It's gonna be dope.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I could even be like a peek behind the curtain is that like I had never played a cleric before, and I don't think I did. Like we're all talking about like what went down. I don't think I did enough looking at what a cleric was specifically, and I think I tied it into Bug's like personal journey. But it was Angela's journey that I was trying to play a different race and a different like a whole different type of character. And you could see that Bug is trying to play like other people. And it actually is so funny that I made it a part of my personal like timeline that I wanted to be like other people.
Yeah.
And that was also just me being like, oh, I just made it work. But then towards the end, you see me start playing like cleric because I start understanding what a cleric is. And I think that just is also me just being excited to do D&D, and this is the first time I was doing D&D with cameras on me.
Yeah.
I wasn't really like just doing the, like, I think I had done D&D when it's for fun, when I can just like be on the computer and click and learn and read. I was just like looking at my friends, and I was never like, I would just be like, yeah, I'll do something with my crossbow. And you guys would be like, why don't you look at what you can do? And I'd be like, oh, whatever. And then I was like finally learning, and then I think that I used that as bug to be like, oh, I could just be who I am. So I ended up using that, which is interesting.
I think it's super cool. And also as a trickster domain cleric, like, you do sort of walk the line between both. So you're going to eventually sort of combine that, and it's going to be sick.
Trickster.
She's a trickster domain. Bug's a trickster domain. Last thing that of my questions before we get to audience questions, were there any Easter eggs might not be the right word, but was there anything you put in about your character that, like, don't spoil anything for season 2 necessarily, but like, is there anything that you said or did that you did as sort of like a wink to the audience, or like, I wonder if anyone's gonna pick up on that they just didn't?
Dolores was a little horny.
Was she really?
No.
Really?
It wasn't
To
just
shreds,
horny.
you
She
say.
was just open. I'm sorry. That's not.
There's a difference.
I definitely threw a very small, subtle hints, but I also talked to our editor, and I told him the whole backstory, and he's like, oh, sweet, I'm going to edit in some like little subtle things.
So we're gonna pay that off later maybe then.
Yeah, like I'm hinting at things that are his backstory, and we haven't covered Fernie's backstory at all.
Got it.
So, but I've told our editor the whole backstory, so he
That's
has
cool.
thrown subtle things into the editing that kind of imply things that there's no way to really decipher it. You could guess, like, but yeah, that we will then. I mean,
Cool.
when the
Nice.
time comes to explore it, I know what it is.
Oh, that's
so.
sick as hell.
That's cool.
Actually, I will say this. I did one voice acting session, and the director, who is a friend of mine, was like, I watched your show, man. I love it. Also, I picked up on the references to this and this, and I was like, you're the one. You're the only one who did. And he was like, you're kidding. I'm like, no. The one thing I'll say, and this is a very minor one, is Serafel, the city that you start off on, is based in Los Angeles. It's supposed to be the Los Angeles of your world. It's a Western Coast trade city where everyone comes to explore arts and business. Seraph means angel, so it's like Los Angeles, Serafel, and you're heading east for opportunity because there's nothing more here.
I thought it was San Francisco. I was so stoked.
Amazing. I initially wanted to base it off of Smosh things, where it's like, things are being weird, we're gonna have to pivot in what we're doing. And that was like the whole thing, like, you're in Los Angeles, you have to pivot jobs, but then everything worked out awesome here. Wow. So, yeah.
Wow.
So we have some audience questions here. Let's see, we got Miriam Shalabi, if I hope I said that correctly. Do you think this D&D series has inspired you in any way outside of the game itself?
Ooh.
And who's been your favorite side character so far? So it's a two-parter, completely unrelated. But have you been inspired outside the game? And who's your favorite side character?
I've been inspired outside the game.
Okay.
Where I've been also doing this thing where, like, when we play, I'm like, I see things that I do in this game, like, affect my real life. Like, either the way I'm talking or, like, the way I'm going. I'm like, oh, I'm being Kota. I don't want to be Kota right now. Why are you being Kota right
You're
now?
like, cut to Chance in his kitchen using a sword.
You're being Kota right now. You're being Kota right now. So the
You guys want me to cut the bread?
No, the dancing, absolutely. But it's also like, I love looking at the psychotherapy of why am I choosing Kota in this part of my life? Like, what does it mean? And like what I'm doing. Oh, 100%. If you also in the comments, there's a couple comments that they like go through our episodes and they're like, this is what's happening to Chance right now in his life. This is what's happening to Angela right now. And I'm like,
I need to
they
read
got
that.
me real good. They
And
got
Shane's
me real
stupid, so we
Shane's dumb.
Or she's
He's
being
made of
brilliant.
wood.
I know what money is, but what does money do?
Like that's funny too. It got
That's
me good.
wild.
Wild.
I relate to that so much. Like
Yeah?
choosing your character, I had to sit back and be like, why did I choose this character? Why is she like such the voice of reason?
Yeah, you're
but yet she has
classy.
these wild
Yep.
things, and I'm like, and she has this anger, this like connection with this anger. I'm like, oh, this is like deeply spiritually connected to me right
You're
now.
right, this is getting real, kinda.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, that moment where I had to like look at myself, or that moment when there was a monster
Sloppy?
being mean
Oh.
to me, and I was like, And I was like, no one can be as mean as myself. When I was like,
Yes.
Oh yeah, it was dissonant whispers or vicious mockery, and it failed.
Yes.
And you again used that story moment to be like, nope, this is how it works in the story. Like,
oh my
loved it.
God, yeah.
Yeah, and then Shane.
You're a robot.
Robot.
What is
wood.
funny?
Obviously. I mean, I think we talked about this on the podcast, but I have been very inspired by it outside of, because, well, I mean, Angela, you came on our podcast and we did the writer's block episode where we wrote a bunch of stuff, and we talked about how this year we've been very creatively stunted in a way, and I've been really struggling with it, and my main goal for so long has been to create for fun. And this D&D is literally that.
Yes.
And it's so great, and I've been very inspired to, it makes me want to be a dungeon master, even if I'm just doing it alone by myself, because I've talked a lot about how I want to write more, I want to create things, but I get bogged down by perfectionism and like, this isn't good. But with D&D, especially outside of here, if we were playing it just for fun, it's not about if it's the story you're telling is good or not. You're just telling a story together and you're having fun. And as long as you're immersed in it, who cares what the objective view of it is?
So true.
And so it has been very inspiring creatively for me.
I think that's been honestly really exciting to watch because again, this first, I don't know how many times I'm going to say it, first time DMing. And I think, you know, there have been a few times where I've been like interviewed about it, and the thing I bring up so much is like watching you guys find your characters and yourselves through this is the thing I'm not responsible for, but like proudest of for this series, because it's been really incredible to watch. And like, not only did you find ways for these characters to reflect parts of yourselves that like were fun to explore, but not always the easiest to explore, but like you also stayed away from these tropes that you see time and time again. Like the closest thing we would have is like, Kota, you are from some kind of royalty or higher stature and you have removed yourself from this society. That's the closest thing we got. Because otherwise, like D&D players always are like, turns out I'm a secret prince and I have amnesia. Like it's, and none of y'all did that. And in fact, like everybody makes themselves like these beautiful best versions of themselves, but you chose like an older woman who's had some tragedy. And then it wasn't until like a few episodes later that like, you know, I was like, okay, so, because at first we just had to get these episodes off the ground and like get things going. But, you know, I was like, hey, I think it's time for us to talk about your patron. Like warlocks have a patron. You know, we did agree that there was a fiend. That, you know, because that's how we had to choose your class, but it was like, you know, we've talked about your backstory. Like, what if this happens? You'd be like, yeah, what if this happens? And it's like, do you have thoughts on a name? And you're like, this name would have meaning to me. I'm like, let's add a change to this name. And like, we crafted these things together. And all of a sudden, it went from like, you know, there's a woman, she's got a bit of a backstory, to like, there is this anger within me. And it was just so immediate.
I relate to that so much. I mean, definitely just straight up being a woman from Boston. I mean, hello. We carry so much anger. It's like a hardened world sometimes. And I think as a woman, especially as a mom, you aren't allowed to really let that out. And I think without even knowing it, when I was doing the character and then finally connecting with Moricel, I was like, oh, this feels so real.
That was such a cool episode.
Like, oh my God, this feels so real. But it also can be fun. That's the other thing, is like, I see darkness as like, it can also be fun and exciting and play. We're
playing Dark Souls on stream. That's it. We're doing it. I appreciate you going to that place with me. And Chance, you specifically, I didn't fully finish my thought before I moved on, and I apologize for that. So there is the trope of like young royalty in D&D, but like you played with it so much by like, you didn't have anything to discover about that. Like it's always like, what? I'm the secret prince. Like, you knew where you came from. You know why you're running from that. And it was from such an emotional and real place that like getting to explore that with you was so exciting and cool, and informs your character so much for the audience that like, yeah, you're brooding, but we don't have to find out why way later. Like we know the vulnerability is there immediately. And you brought this character from a different campaign, sort of.
Yeah, he's the lover of the other guy. So
that you play.
Oh, did you not know that?
Oh, no.
The other guy is my main guy, so the Kota has always been the side character in my other campaign.
Oh, that's so cool.
mind-boggling. And so I want to be and if I can find 2 other campaigns, I want to be the 2 other ones too. So all 4 contestants.
Wait, I love that.
Than's the spring one.
Wait, so Kota is.
Kota's the summer one.
And that's why I was like
What
so honored
is-
that you let me like
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
do that with you.
I love that.
So the summer and
That's
spring
really
are together.
cool. Wow.
I love
This
that.
is me being
Connected
really
universe.
impressed
And you know
with
what's
you.
crazy? So the they ran away from the tournament.
How about we bleep out that part and I write that into a season? Because
sure.
like, holy shit, that's
Yeah.
great.
Fun.
And then when they catch up, they all.
Yeah.
Wait, I love that.
Meanwhile, I'm just a bunch of little guys playing, I don't know, Monopoly. Damn.
I have such a fun thought. So I will say this. This is a mini spoiler. I wanted us to initially have 3 missions, and the third mission would involve a dungeon, and that's what Alex suggested. Like, make the second where you already are in the second one, make it a dungeon. I was like, great, moving castle. I'm the first one that did it. Who's Miyazaki? But the dungeon was originally going to be a big payoff for your backstory, so I'm so excited to explore that later. Same with you, Fernie. And also, sorry, who's been your favorite side character so far?
Dungo.
Oh,
Tango.
stop.
That's tough. Probably Kevin.
Kevin.
I'm biased towards Kevin.
Kevin.
Kevin,
I f***ing love Kevin.
who I know was made up on the spot, but really worked out great.
All your little guys. Ruben, who was the other one?
Well, those aren't side, because those are moves that I use.
Yeah. I know,
Damien's
but-
side characters. Kevin is the moth that we found in the
Yes,
castle.
here's-
yes.
Here's some Kevin lore real quick.
Okay.
The original episode that Kevin was supposed to be in, I ended up watching it later and I'm like, I don't see any comments about Kevin. And I just realized, I'm like, was this the episode Kevin was supposed to be in? And just because there's so much to cut down and it was such a good moment between you, he was cut originally. So hopefully by now there's a digital short up that's like behind the scenes introducing Kevin, because he comes up in every other episode and we're leaving him in. So it's just like,
Wow.
Kevin was one of my favorites too.
Kevin
We cut him.
flying on the editing room floor.
We cut some,
funny.
like, in talking, because I met with we've all been meeting with these D&D writers. I'm like, I wonder if Kevin can be used to make, like, Fernie.
well, he's in every other episode. Like, he's
To
there.
make Fernie more
like, Fernie's smarter, because he's got, like, a
Yes.
moth that talks in his head.
I love that.
Wait, I love that.
So,
Like your bird, that needs to be Kevin.
I know. I know. The bird is often used in the art, and there was no bird. But we have Kevin.
The bird's
Shout
on
out
The bird is Kevin.
Shout out to Stitched Crow for doing these, by
Yeah.
the way. And then Odd Jacobson for the original character designs.
Amazing.
Really
so
sick.
much.
Huge. I'm glad y'all like Tungo. Damn, like that was in the moment. Like, I did have an interview at some point where someone was like, "How many frog names did you have listed with jobs before you started?" And I was like, "Garland,
Oh, no.
Rumpum, that's it." And the rest of you were like, "What are these 9 guys?" And I'm like, "Well, they're."
You loved Gunthar, though.
I loved Gunthar. Gunthar was strong.
He was your hoe. He
and
was your
grounded.
hoe.
He was so my hoe, but he didn't want to be my hoe.
No.
He had no
He
interest
can still
in
be your
me.
hoe if he doesn't want to be.
He had no interest in me whatsoever. I was always like, "Hi, Gunthar." He's like, "Hello, Dolores. Let's get in the car." And Bug's like, "Can I sit in the front seat?" I'm like, "No, Gunthar."
He's too busy being, Bug's emotional support.
Yeah.
Centaur.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, this is a cute one. Not That Alex 7609 says, what would your character do, mostly job-wise, if they were a normal human in the 21st century?
Ooh.
Modern-day normal human.
A lawyer.
Dolores is a lawyer. Delawyeres.
I think maybe season 2, Dolores. No. I feel like season 2, Dolores is like a roadie. Season 1, I don't know, come back to me, sorry.
Fernie would be a park ranger.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Of
easily.
course. Love that.
Knocking on 2 teens making out in a car.
Like,
you
hey,
guys.
Gotta.
You
There's a
can't
wild
park
beast
here.
You gotta go. There's a 500-pound black bear that was spotted around here. So you gotta need Doritos in your car. Yeah, he's gonna come. He's gonna show up. He's gonna come you up.
That's
You
so
need to get out of here.
funny.
Maybe like a traveling nurse.
Oh, like
Yeah.
Doctors Without
Oh, like
Borders?
that.
Or like,
Nice.
okay, wow.
Yeah.
That.
I love that.
I think mine's like, I own a gift shop that's like everything must go sale is happening.
Yeah, for sure.
That's so
Like I own a
cute.
gift shop, there's some witchy stuff, there's some cute teacups, but there's consistently a sign that says everything must go.
You're one of those stores that you see where like, what a sweet place. How the
But
is
it's
it
staying
business?
And she's barely hanging on. She slips in the back.
And I've been to one of those stores, and the everything must go sign is a permanent sign.
Yes.
Of
And
course.
you go, these bitches.
Well, it does. Like, they have a business where they have to sell things. You're like, that's correct.
And that's
I guess.
You walk up to them and you're like, you for that.
This is a sign. This
They're like,
is
we're
a
allowed to say
real
whatever we
sign.
want.
Well, they
They're
don't
like, the
want
sign is for sale.
And you go, this is Everything Must Go LLC.
That's so funny. You're like, yeah, I'll just take this trinket. I'm onto your games.
And she's like, what?
I think Bug's in between stuff, you know?
Yeah,
Bug
between
would have a
gigs.
podcast.
Yeah, Bug has a podcast.
Bug has a podcast being like, okay,
In his
no
garage.
alpha male.
No
In his
guests.
garage.
No
No
guess.
guests. No guests in the garage.
What's
Love button.
bugging me? And you're just like, you know what?
Okay,
you know
so
what?
hypothetically, say I was a goblin.
You just made Bug Ben Shapiro.
I've made Bug fully an incel.
You just
in
went
the-
from the
in
most,
real
for the
world.
most like,
is an incel.
Say it was a goblin. Pretty cool stuff. Anyways,
Yeah. Bug's tolerable here, but put Bug in LA, bad guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
oh no.
Several episodes all on the Barbie movie.
I feel like I know
here's
him.
what's wrong with the bar.
Bug Shapiro.
Bug Shapiro is good.
I hate
Wait,
that.
I love Bug, and then suddenly a human Bug is no.
Here's what's
Well,
wrong with the
human
Barbie
bug
movie.
doesn't
Part
exist.
5.
Yeah.
But fan art of Bug
Human
Shapiro.
Bug
Let's
can't
see it.
hurt you.
Ah!
I feel like Human Bug auditioned for Smosh and didn't make it.
Oh, 100%.
Wait. Human Bug auditioned for Smosh and talked over a woman.
Oh my god.
Oh, he did, huh?
And Dolores tried to audition for Smosh and got arrested for being a fan.
All right, y'all, so we are running low on time. One thing I do want to do is thank everybody so much for not only the support, but the immense amount of fan art we received. This fan art is truly incredible. So tomorrow, October 5th, on the Smosh Games live stream, we will be going through this fan art. Again, we can't get to everything, but we're pulling a lot of different highlights, and we're going to be commenting on it, showing it the love it deserves, and being like, look, we saw it. We thank you.
Some
They're
of
so
it
good.
moves.
Some of it.
No,
It's
incredible.
animated. It's not even.
They call them a talkie.
It's unbelievable.
One of them.
Seriously, you guys are killing
Thank you guys
it.
for watching and loving our little guys.
Truly.
Little guys.
This is, to this day, one of the things I'm proudest of in my life, and I wouldn't have wanted to do it with anyone else. Thank you to the crew. Thank you to the
everybody.
cast. Thank you to everybody who has chipped in with different ideas and thoughts, bouncing them back and forth. Thank you again to Stitch Crow. Thank you to Odd Jacobson for the character designs. And more than anything, thank you.
Thank you.
Love you guys and Merry Christmas.
Hey, I was
Love you
going to say
guys.
happy
What?
birthday. That's crazy.
Bye.
Bye.